live from NTA Maiduguri Network Center. Urban renewal and development in the transport sector of most developing countries is common, with tricycle operations providing cheap, affordable, and convenient means for passengers in densely populated areas, as well as narrow alleys. Commercial tricycles, also known as keke napep, has displaced motorcycles in most parts of the country as a result of ban due to peculiarities of the state, with crime, accident, and other forms of lawlessness a common factor. In Borno, growth of keke napep was a product of the Boko Haram displacement of communities and concentration of population in the urban center. A lot is happening to sanitize the transport sector dominated by the tricycles, get thousands of youths engaged to check restiveness, reduce criminality, and raise internally generated revenue for government. How viable and sustainable are the measures to sanitize commercial tricycles at the center of life of the common man? This is our focus this afternoon on Panorama. I am Muhammad Ibrahim. President Muhammad Buhari is reassuring the nation's youths that the federal government has heard their loud cries and important steps have been taken towards addressing the genuine concerns. He, however, warned that any attempt at threatening the peace or sabotaging efforts at dealing with the various challenges confronting the country will not be tolerated. The president was speaking at an audience with the National Council of Traditional Rulers of Nigeria, led by the Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Saad Abakar. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has details.
I am indeed glad that we are having this meeting, although not under the best of circumstances.
The meeting, in response to the recent happenings in Nigeria, President Buhari said underscores the indispensability of the royal fathers in maintaining peace and security in the country.
I want to once again thank you for the role you all have played to calm down our youth with wisdom and authority. By instilling hope and keeping the peace, you have rendered the country great service.
Strong, transparent efforts, the president said, are underway towards addressing those he described as rock elements of the Nigeria police.
The Nigerian police force will also undergo much needed reform that covers welfare, working conditions, and code of conduct that will usher in a more professional workforce. To succeed in all of this, we will require your support and voice to help amplify the message. Your proximity to the people places you in a unique position to communicate and to ensure that our response is targeted and impactful.
President Buhari maintained that there is no hiding place regarding the government's response to the insecurity concerns, youth unemployment, job creation, boosting industrialization, and preparing for a transition into a digital economy. To succeed in all this, he, however, said the role of the monarchs as guardians of traditional values and culture is most critical, but insists that they must not compromise their neutrality, which confers on them moral authority and legitimacy.
I have asked my chief of staff to travel to various parts of the country and directly engage with you as part of this process. He will be reporting back to me your various perspectives.
The Oni of Ife, on behalf of the Council of Traditional Rulers of Nigeria, presented to President Muhammadu Buhari the outcome of his deliberations on the state of the nation occasioned by the recent NSAS protest in parts of the country.
Hoping that he will consider the proposals we saw put forward, which we believe would help him and his government and all other state governments to tackle the numerous challenges and problems facing our great country.
What is critical for us here as the traditional rulers of their country is to continue to work with government in order to bring peace and stability to their country. We know that you cannot do it alone. We know that you are doing your very best from all strata of government, but we want to tell you you and assure you today that we are still much available. Anytime you call on us, any day you call on us, we are ready to serve our nation.
Two foremost traditional rulers representing each of the 6 geopolitical zones of the country attended the meeting. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, emerging from an emergency committee meeting in Abuja, the National Council of Traditional Rulers of Nigeria notes that the NSAS protest exposed gaps in the nation's plans for the youths and expresses regret that the peaceful protest was hijacked, resulting in loss of lives, widespread looting and destruction of public and private property. The communique signed by His Royal Highness Alhaji Yahya Abubakar, the Esunupe, and Chairman Coordinating Committee indicates that the Council is delighted with the introduction of community policing that aims to involve traditional institutions and their various communities into the security architecture, and wants government to ensure that traditional rulers drive the initiative. The Royal Fathers also lament the impasse between ASU and the federal government that has led to the ongoing academic strike in Nigerian universities, which has lingered, and wants the federal government to resolve the issues. The monarchs expressed worry about the upsurge of drug abuse in the country, which appears to be responsible for a rise in crime and criminality, while calling on the federal government to come to the aid of displaced persons across the country. The Council promises to continue doing its best to douse tension across the country, while advising government to continue dialogue with the youths to ensure their engagement in productive employment. The federal government will soon commence oil exploration and drilling activities in Northeast Sub-region, particularly along the shores of Lake Chad Basin. Minister of State for Petroleum Chief Timipre Silva disclosed this shortly after a Chad Basin operations meeting held at the headquarters of Theatre Command Operation Lafia Dole in Maiduguri. Abubakar Mohamed Musa reports.
Concerted efforts geared towards the revival and exploration of Africa's largest river basin, the Lake Chad, has been ongoing. In view of this, federal government high-powered delegation comprising Minister of State for Petroleum, Chief Timipre Silva, Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, Group Managing Director, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Mele Kyari, Group General Manager, Frontier Exploration Services, Mohammed Ali, and General Manager, Security, among others, converged for the Chad Basin Operations closed-door meeting, which lasted for 40 minutes. Minister of State for Petroleum, Chief Timipre Silva, had, while appreciating efforts of the Nigerian military for ensuring restoration of relative peace in the region, also expressed government's commitment to pursue the revival and commencement of oil exploration in the Lake Chad.
We have seen a lot of prospects in the Chad Basin, and we want to commence exploration and drilling activities, and that's why we are collaborating with the Nigerian Army to ensure that security is provided for activities to commence very soon.
The minister believed the sustained synergy with the Nigerian military and other security outfits will go a long way in realizing the Lake Chad vision. It is expected that when exploration in the Lake Chad Basin begins, it will significantly improve economic fortunes of the country and provide employment opportunities for teeming youths. In Maiduguri, Abubakar Mohamed Musa, NTA News.
Key objectives of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCTA, is to achieve a single market for goods, services, and free movement of persons, contribute to progressive liberalization of goods, and promote industrial development. For Parliament to effectively perform its representational oversight and legislative duties, parliamentarians of ECOWAS insist on inclusion at the point of decision-making for the different stages of progress on AFCTAs. Onenge Fineface reports.
As elected representatives of the people of the West African region, members of the ECOWAS Parliament are determined to support governments of member states to ratify results of negotiations in the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Parliament is also to check the balance of power of the executive, develop benchmark for measuring results, and ensure that objectives of the African Continental Free Trade Area are not in conflict with domestic legislations and trade policies of member states.
And it is critical that all countries within our customs union ratify in order to maintain the integrity of the ECOWAS customs union before the start of trading of the AFCFTA by the 1st of January 2021.
A situation where briefs and reports are sent to Parliament midway into implementation of decisions by the ECOWAS Commission. Parliamentarians say it's antithetical to the synergy needed for progress.
We don't want to be a rubber stamp parliament. You don't even understand the hazards, the challenges. So we need to know all those challenges so that if we go to our various communities, if we go to our various countries, we will be able to defend or to say this is good or this is not good.
The private sector is very key, but I realize that there's an issue with access to funding. And they have good business plans, they have negotiation skills, but access to funding is a very major issue. Foreign companies come in African countries and raise the money from our banks, they invest, and then they employ us.
African Continental Free Trade Area seeks to combine the economies of 55 African countries under a Pan-African Trade Area comprising 1.2 billion people in a market with a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion. In Cotonou, Benin Republic, Onengiye Fineface, NTA News.
Part of the post-insurgency recovery program in Borno State is the reorganization and sensitization of commercial tricycle operations to nip crime in the bud and ensure public safety on the roads. These measures are also imperative to minimize accidents and other social hazards common in developing nations of the world, where the tricycles are common means of transport, especially Africa and Asia. Abakar Mohamed Musa examines the menace by the commercial tricycle and efforts to bring them into the fold of lawful activities for the benefit of all.
Commercial tricycle, popular means of public transportation in densely populated urban centers of developing nations, became popular in Nigeria with growing size and complexities of cities, as well as the ban on motorcycle. Here in Borno, it was the Boko Haram insurgency that led to a total withdrawal of motorcycle, with the vacuum in the transport sector effectively covered by the tricycles. At the peak of the conflict, most tricycle operations in northern, central and parts of southern Borno moved to the state capital with the internally displaced persons. Since then, it has been difficult to sanitize the growing business occasioned by crime wave, reckless riding, accident and other disorderliness spiraling out of control.
It's not only the NAPEPs that are going to be regulated, including the other road users, in order to bring discipline, sanitize their conduct.
The newly created Transport Ministry was given the Herculean task of ensuring sanity, generate revenue for government, and create an agency to engage youths as vanguards to organize and implement government policy on commercial tricycles.
The riders and the leaders, they all need to be informed and urged positively that what the Ministry of Transport, in line with Botoma, the new board, prepared for them is to have peace in discharging of their responsibility.
This started with an executive bill that was passed by the House of Assembly and signed into law by government for speedy implementation.
If they obey rules, definitely the pull the road will not be on their side. But if they didn't, to be candid, we have no action rather than to punish them according to the Act. That is according to the regulations of Borno State Traffic Regulation Act.
The biometric capture registration of the tricycle riders and owners was only the first step in ensuring a disciplined motoring, check criminality, and key into the post-insurgency recovery and urban transformation drive.
We are given 100% to the government, and also we are ready to comply the rules and regulations of the government.
Most importantly, as the thousands of riders are effectively youths, the regulatory agency will engage and train thousands of youths for effective country. In Maiduguri, Abubakar Muhammad Musa, NTA News.
Socio-economic well-being of the society in Borno recovering from the traumatic decade of Boko Haram insurgency is dependent on commercial tricycle operations in the transport sector. The popular alternative for the banned motorcycle and other means of transportation in metropolitan centers will require regulation, reorganization, and effective monitoring to meet objectives of urban development. It is also to check surging crimes attributed to the Keke Napep, get youth engaged, and plug loopholes in IGR from the sector. With me to discuss issues relating to sanitization of commercial tricycle services, enhancing the socio-economic lives of youth, is the Borno State Commissioner for Transport, Abuja Tijani. So welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we begin. What were the key issues that informed government's decision to overhaul commercial tricycle services in Borno, especially in the state capital where they are concentrated?
You see, the state government taking into consideration the kind of job that the Keke Napep tricycle provides to our youth, and also taking into cognizance the kind of criminal activities that is being perpetrated by some few elements amongst them, decided to at least sanitize the whole system to at least make it an open means of employment for the youth. It is also taken into consideration the long neglect of the transport sector due to the entity Ministry of Transport appears all this long, because the ministry is long before now combined with the Ministry of Works, and for the engagements by the works, they have less or even no attention towards this system. It is in the regard of this actualization that we decided to overhaul the whole system and to make it a more decent and proper means of employment to the youths.
Okay. What are the chronicle measures taken to ensure viability and sustainability of the commercial tricycles in the transport sector?
You see, first and foremost, the moment the ministry was created, the management team of that ministry sat down and discussed and analyzed a lot. And first and foremost, we started with the need to at least capture the biometric data of all the Keke Napep riders and owners. Thereafter, we come up with the issue of at least diminishing the powers which most of these unions are hitherto exercising and abusing. And we decided to give a state unified registration number to all these tricycle operators, which we can be able to identify them through these unique numbers. 3, we also came up with the issue of blocking of the roadside of the tricycles to avert human accidents.
Okay.
Then we come up with the issue of providing them with a sticker which is referred to as N-secured sticker, which we will be able to use in determining their prompt payment or default of the dues which they're supposed to generate to the state. These are some of the issues we started, and chronically we were able to at least implement even 60 to 70% of all these measures.
Okay, interesting. Now, creation of an establishment, Borno Traffic Management Agency, is at the heart of these efforts, as done in other states. How will this key into the growing need to get youth engaged in meaningful economic ventures and job opportunities?
You see, first and foremost, taking into consideration the kind of the job that these tricycles used to provide to our teeming youth, we need to at least sanitize them by correcting the traffic within the state. And with the creation of this traffic management agency, I'm sure the state will, for a start, recruit nothing less than 500 marshals, which will be trained and regimented by the police college here in Maiduguri.
Okay.
So they will now help and work hand in hand with the vehicle inspection officers as well as the Federal Safety Corps in at least correcting the ills within the traffic system. And secondly, when we sanitize the system, at least it will now make room for majority of our youth to have a decent means of livelihood within the system. These are some of the reasons also too.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner for Transport, Borno State, Abubakar Tijani, for coming on Panorama.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The program continues after some messages. Do stay. Thank you for being there. As at the 5th of November 2020, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control has confirmed 180 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. A breakdown of the new figures indicates Lagos is highest with 87 cases, followed by Oyo 51, FCT 10, Plateau 4, Ekiti and Ogun 3 each. Others are Bauchi, Kaduna and Niger states 2 each, while Kano, Ondo, Osun and Rivers have 1 case each. This brings the total confirmed national figures to 63,508, discharged 59,748 and deaths 1,155. In other news, after studying the sustained measures that have led to control in spike of cases of COVID-19, Borno State has reopened all educational institutions last week for resumption of normal academic activities after over 6 months of closure. All tertiary institutions in the state have started classes engaging the youths who have been idle for a while. Yagumsu Bukar examined safety protocols put in place by government to ensure the feared possible second wave of COVID-19 does not occur.
The education sector has had its fair share of devastation due to the global outbreak of coronavirus pandemic, a situation that led to the total closure of all academic activities for over 6 months. Flattering of the COVID-19 curve had paved way for reopening of educational institutions as academic activities commenced to make up for the lost time. With me is the Borno State Commissioner for Higher Education, Science, Technology and Innovations, who will be talking to us on measures put in place by government to ensure safety of students, teachers and stakeholders in the academic community.
We summoned stakeholders meeting in the state for us to discuss the days and the appropriate time for reopening, of which we also have discussed with the Honorable Commissioner Health to ensure that we are COVID-free. In that respect, the committee, the stakeholder agreed to reopen all the institutions in the state on 26 October 2020. And then in line with that one, we now ensure that the COVID guideline is being complied with. The ministry constituted a small committee, including the special advisor, for them to go around all the tertiary institutions to ensure that the guidelines of this COVID-19 is being followed, which also includes, they went around the academic environment, they went around the hostels and other environment to ensure that hygiene and then good health are being taken into measures. We ensure that students and staff also attend classes, and then we know it's 6 months, and then we have discussed with the provosts and directors of the tertiary institution to ensure that they work in such a way that all the syllabus will be covered before the end of the academic session.
If these COVID-19 safety protocols are adhered to, academic activities in Borno State can be considered free from a possible resurgence of the second wave of the global pandemic. It's back to you in the studios.
Thank you, Yagumsu. More upsets at Handball Premier League in Abuja. Ayodeji Makinde tells us more on Sports Update.
20 Nigerian FIFA referees took part in a one-day physical fitness tests at the training pitch of the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, Abuja, on Thursday as part of preparations for the 2021 season.
We have to conduct the same exercise for the national referees that participate in the league in Nigeria. So the same parameter we use as spelled out by FIFA, and those that makes it will be the ones we use for the league.
The 2020 Prudent Energy Handball Premier League continues in Abuja, with Desert Queens losing 16 goals to 31 against Safety Babes, and Adorable Queens defeating Kada Queens 29-25 on day 6 on Thursday. Kano Pillars beat Plateau Vipers 34-21, while Rima Strikers lost 28-29 goals to Lagos Seasiders. About 250 tennis players will take part in the week-long 42nd edition of CBN Tennis Open Championship, which serves off Saturday at the tennis court Package B section of the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, featuring action in 6 different categories.
I equally urge them to maximize this awesome opportunity provided by this championship to exhibit their talents with a view to showcasing them at tournaments locally and internationally.
In the meantime, Chief of the Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, says the Nigerian Army will continue to improve on the welfare of its personnel in addition to training and retraining in line with international best practice. Sagir Muhammad Alwal reports that General Buratai stated this in a message to this year's Directorate of Army Physical Training Conference held at the Nigerian Military School, Zaria. The theme for this year's conference was repositioning the Nigerian Army Physical Training Corps through effective training and sports excellence. With sports update, Ayodeji, Makinde, NTA News.
That's all we can take on Panorama this Friday afternoon. Thank you for your company. Have a nice day.